Alright, so we are going to take a look at finding the angle measures. We're going to start by stating the relationship between the angles. Alright, so looking at the first example here, they give me 120 degrees, and they want me to figure out the measure of angle 1. Okay, well, the relationship between angle 1 and 120 degrees, these angles are corresponding. And hopefully from Friday we remember that corresponding angles are congruent. Since they are congruent, I know that the measure of angle 1 would be 120 degrees. Alright, looking at the next example here. Okay, I have the measure of angle 3 and 120 degrees. Okay, the relationship between these two angles here is that they're on the same side and both interior. So same side interior. Okay, and I know that same side interior angles are supplementary. And since they are supplementary, then I can say 180 minus 120, which would give me 60 degrees for angle 3. Alright, taking a look at the next example here. Again, I have 120, and I'm looking for the measure of angle 5. These two are on the same line, so that makes these a linear pair. So this is the stuff we talked about a couple weeks ago. We know that linear pairs are supplementary. And we already found that when they're supplementary, 180 minus 120 would give me 60. Alright, so looking at the last example in this little section here, okay, I have 120 degrees and I am looking for the measure of angle 7. These angles are across from each other, which makes them vertical. And I know that vertical angles are congruent. So therefore, if one angle is 120, the measure of angle 7 would also be 120. So on the next set of questions here, we're wanting to name the angle pair, and then we want to solve for x. Okay, so looking at this first one here, it tells me that the measure of angle 1 is 6x plus 24, and the measure of angle 4 is 17x minus 9. Okay, so I have angle 1 and angle 4. Okay, these two angles here are corresponding. And since they are corresponding, we know that means that they are congruent. Anytime they're congruent, that means that they are equal to each other. So to solve for x, I'm going to take the measure of angle 1 and set it equal to the measure of angle 4. So I have 6x plus 24, and I'm going to say that that is equal to 17x minus 9. Okay, at this point, I have the problem set up. I need to solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to first subtract 6x from both sides. I get 24 is equal to 17x minus 6x is 11x minus 9. Add 9 to both sides. 24 plus 9 is 33. That's equal to 11x. I divide both sides by 11, and I get x is equal to 3. So looking at the next example here, I'm looking at the measure of angle 3 and the measure of angle 4. These two angles are same side interior. And I know that same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, Okay, so anytime they're supplementary, that means it adds to 180. So I'm going to add the two angles together and then set it equal to 180. So 23x plus 11 plus 14x plus 21. And I'm going to say that that is equal to 180. Combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. I have 23x plus 14x. And that gives me 37x. I have positive 11 plus 21. That gives me plus 32. And that's equal to 180. Now that I've combined like terms, I'm going to start moving stuff across the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 32. 180 minus 32 gives me 148. So I have 37x is equal to 148. Divide both sides by 37. And x is equal to 4. Alright, so looking on the back of our notes here. Okay, they want us to name the special angle pair, and then they want us to find the measure of the angle that it asked about. Okay, so here I have x and 1/16. So these angles are alternate interior. And I know that alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, so if this angle is 1/16, then x would also be 1/16. Okay, and it's asking for the measure of angle ABC, which is angle X. Okay, so I've already answered that question. Alright, so looking at the next example, okay, these two angles here are on the same side of the transversal, and they're both interior. So same side interior. And so since they're same side interior, those angles are supplementary, which means that they're going to add to 180. So I'm going to set it up. 13x plus 17x, and I'm going to set that equal to 180. Combine my like terms. 13x plus 17x gives me 30x, and that's equal to 180. Now that I've combined like terms, all I have to do is divide both sides by 30, not 20, 30. 180 divided by 30 gives me 6, so x equals 6. Now then, that doesn't actually answer the question that it's asking for. It wants you to find the measure of G. Okay, the angle EFG is the angle right here with the 17x. So then I'm going to plug that in. 17 times 6 gives me 102. So to actually answer the question, the angle is 102. Okay, so looking at the last example here, okay, these two angles are alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, so to set this up, I'm going to set these two angles equal to each other. So 4x minus 14 is equal to 3x plus 12. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. 4x minus 3x is 1x. Minus 14 is equal to 12. I'm going to add 14. And so x is equal to 26. Okay, so we solved for x, but now we need to plug it back in to figure out the measure of the angle I'm missing, or the angle that I'm wanting. STU is this angle outside here. So I'm going to have to find the angle on the other side first, and then I can subtract from 180 to find the angle STU outside. So I'm going to plug in 3 times 26 plus 12. Okay, 3 times 26 plus 12 gives me 90. Alright, so this angle here is 90, which means that angle STU is also 90 because 180 minus 90 is still 90. Okay, if you set this problem up as supplementary, okay, where you added the two together and set it equal to 180, coincidentally you would still end up with x equals 26. That's because these angles are the same. Okay, they're both 90 degrees, but that's not how we work this problem out. Please, please, please make sure if they are alternate interior angles, they are congruent and you set them equal to each other to solve for x.